everybody, and welcome to Dynamic Communities Summit Europe. We're so thankful that you would take the time to be a part of such an amazing conference. My name's Dustin Damaris, and I'm a Senior Solutions Architect for Dynamic Consultants Group. I've got about 18 years of experience in data integrations and development and doing a lot of things around platform as a service, software as a service. I've worked with software systems such as SAP, Oracle, NetSuite, and then most recently, Microsoft Dynamics. So I've been working in the dynamic space for quite a while, kind of talking with customers, doing design thinking, doing architecture work for our clients. And it's just such an amazing time right now. The Microsoft community has just exploded with the number of people involved, with the number of amazing products that Microsoft released, and we want to try to give you a little bit more education. And it's great and amazing opportunities like we have at this event to be able to give you that kind of deep information. So I also would like to introduce with you just quickly my colleague here, Patrick Vogner. Patrick is a Senior Solutions Architect with Dynamic Consultants Group as well, and he's going to be helping me with the demo.
Thank you, and thank you for having me today.
Thanks, Patrick. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend a few minutes today talking about notifications. Everyone wants notifications of some kind. Alerts in the system, it's just the key to increasing user adoption. But how do you actually accomplish it? Most people end up sending email alerts. But we all know that a lot of times that just gets buried in the minutia of everything that we're doing every day. So we want to talk about what is the right way and what are some of the alternatives to email notifications that we could use to really give our users clear understanding of everything that's going on in the system and all the things that we want them to do in the system. So today we're going to talk about a few options. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of each one. Patrick's going to give some really cool presentations about Teams and some of the things that we can do with Power Automate in order to do a lot of those automations. So it's going to be really neat. We're going to see a lot of that in just a few minutes. One of the most common requests that we see in a company is that things need to either be reminded or we want to be notified of something. We hear it all the time. Customers request it on almost every project. It could be that we want to be notified when a new lead comes in, when an opportunity is won. We also may want to know when a critical customer service case is logged or when work order escalations occur. It could also be notifications on ERP, such as when inventory reaches a certain on-hand level or when inventory may drop below a certain point. Maybe we want notifications to occur at that time. Those are all important things to know about and really important things that users need to be alerted on. But is email always the right way? The statistic says that over 80% of all emails outside of your organization never actually get opened. And 52% of emails inside of your organization go unopened. It just gets buried. A lot of our email alerts that we send and a lot of the workflows that we used to build to notify people about things, it just gets buried inside of a giant pile of emails. So there's got to be some solutions that we can do outside of email that can really help us to be able to get better engagement from our users. So what are some of the best practices that we should consider when we're setting up notifications across the board? Well, the first thing to think about is really don't send email notifications in bulk. They just get too much. You don't want your user community to be overwhelmed by the number of notifications that you're sending them. And that will really help you so that way when you do notify them, they actually care and are more interested in hearing about it. You also just want to, for the same reason, watch the frequency of communication. You don't want to constantly be bombarding them with information. It just doesn't work. They'll stop reading it, and then your notifications become completely useless. Also, keep your notifications professional. We want to make sure we're not using negative notifications. We want to make sure that they're positive. So look at the positive side of whatever it is you're wanting to notify, and make sure the text of your notification is really something positive. We also want to just ask ourselves the question, anytime we want to set up a notification, how important is it? Only send the most important notifications for the same purpose as talking about before. We just want to make sure that they're being read. We want to make sure people are paying attention to them. So make sure that you're really assessing the importance of every notification that you build to make sure that you're only doing the most important ones. The other thing that you should ask yourself is this just an alert, or do I need to actually direct the user to do something? Because that will change the patterns, and Patrick will talk about that in a few minutes, about how that we could choose a different pattern with Teams or some other feature that actually wants to get feedback from the user to do something. As an example, to qualify or disqualify a lead. Those types of requests for information and for a response from your user will lead you to a different pattern. So make sure you're asking the questions, is this just a notification or do we need to take action? The other thing is we want to make sure that any notification we send is direct and personal. The more personal you can be about their opportunities, about their cases, about their manager, the more you can be direct about the type of notification you're giving them, the better that it will be, and the more helpful it will be to the user. So make sure you're really thinking about that when you're crafting the words, when you're crafting the way that the notification gets sent, so that way you're choosing the best pattern and the right content for the user. The other thing you want to do is really give the users the ability to control their own notification settings. As an example, maybe me personally, I don't want to be notified anytime a high priority case gets escalated. We don't want to just blast that out to the whole organization. We want to only make sure those notifications are going to targeted individuals. That's where that personalized comes from. Targeted individuals for the job role that they have. We want to make sure that users can actually control that, or administrators or someone can control those settings, so that way you can turn things off or on based on what a user needs to see. That will really help find the importance to the ones that they want and the importance of the ones that they need to see in the company. Well, companies are producing creative ways to handle notifications. So let's talk about some of the different creative ways that you can use them and the way other companies are using notifications. We talked about this a few minutes ago, but alerting when something new comes into the system, whether it's a new lead, a new account, contact, opportunity, work order, project, whatever the instance is, making sure that you want to alert somebody. So that's one reason to do it. We also could alert someone that something is about to occur. So predictive next action. This is where it starts to get really valuable. So it's not just about alerting me to something that has happened, but maybe something that is going to happen. As an example, if you start looking at customer churn, maybe a customer churn score gets to a certain level where you send out a notification saying, we really need to be looking at our relationship with this customer right now because we've got some issues with churn. The other thing you could do is look at predictive close rates. So from a sales AI standpoint, starting to look at lead score, probability to close, and some of those automatic things that are happening through artificial intelligence, that could really help you to then send notifications that are extremely important to the user base that you're working with. As an example, sending a notification to a sales manager that we've reached a certain lead score on a lead, or that we have reached a certain point in a sales opportunity where we're bumping that probability up to 90%, gives them that prediction. The other thing that you can think about is driving traffic. So as an example, if you've got new blog articles that are being posted or new videos that are being posted in your organization, use notifications to help drive traffic to those. It will help alert people that new stuff is being posted in the organization. It'll also give them great content that they can then be top of mind when they share it with their customers. The other thing that you can do is you could use it for product promotion. So as an example, new product launches, new case studies that are being released, promote that in your organization. It just increases the engagement level of your users around your entire organization. It could be events, it could be meetings, it could be registrations and webinars. All of those things help set expectations for attendees that, hey, we're really wanting to drive attendance, and those kind of notifications could be critical to the way you do things. Also think about the "you're not done yet" type of notifications. So as an example, an abandoned lead, maybe they didn't finish filling in all the fields. An abandoned opportunity, maybe they never progressed it to a certain sales stage. Maybe they haven't progressed it, or there hasn't been an activity logged over a period of time. Those kind of, hey, did you forget, could be great ways to use notifications. Also, think about this. We obviously can know when a person has a meeting on their calendar by the integration with Outlook. What about an after meeting reminder to log their activity? Maybe it's a quick question that says, hey, did you want to log an activity, some notes from the meeting that you just had with the customer? And if they say yes, or they click yes, maybe it prompts them for some notes that they can enter, which would then automatically create an activity. Those kind of really cool things could be amazing ways to get more adoption. Also think about it from a project management. We use this internally where time entries need to be logged on a project. And if there hasn't been any time entries for a resource within a certain number of days, we can have an alert remind them to log their time against a project. Those kind of things will really help create a culture of notifications to really give your user community an added boost to be able to help user adoption. So what types of notifications do we consider when we're doing some of these things? And these are some things that we're going to look at today, and Patrick's going to show us some really cool stuff here in just a second. But it could be a push notification. So with Power Apps, you can do push notifications. You could also build a custom mobile app that connects to a push service, and that would really help to kind of make it more personal if your company had an app or you have very specific things that you want to do. But you can do push notifications with Power Apps, which is pretty cool. You could use Teams, and this is probably the most common because you're going to get a push notification and you're going to get a Teams chat where you can do some other cool stuff like using action cards. You could use Slack if companies are still using Slack rather than Teams. Slack could be an option. You can post to Slack using notifications. Or it could be something as simple as SMS or MMS, so text messaging or a photo, things like that coming in through Twilio or another messaging service. All of this can be done using Power Automate. Some of these could require a little bit of code to make them cool, and Patrick will talk more about that in a second, but a lot of these things can be accomplished right now using Power Automate, which is pretty amazing. So without further ado, let's get into our demo. Let's take a look at some of these really cool ways that we can start to use notifications. Patrick, take it away.
One of the things that I've learned in my past life, being in the supply chain, is just what Dustin was saying. You get so much information coming at you in email format that you just don't know what to do. You don't know what's relevant and what's not.
Yep.
And sometimes there are places in business where you just need quick decisions or quick actions. And I think that's where this is really going to leverage Microsoft's new Power Platform in the high velocity development of no-code and low-code solutions. And what we're going to show you today is actually across platforms. You do get more flexibility and also prettiness if you stay inside the Microsoft family, but we'll show you how you can go outside of that and do pretty much anything that has a connector, and even custom connectors as well. So
we wish everybody was on Teams,
yeah,
but that's not always the case. There's some folks still using Slack, and Slack's a good tool. There's just some limitations there, which I know you'll show.
Yep. So what we're going to showcase here is, let's say we're at a trade show and someone comes up to me from a very big company and says, hey, I really like your product. That's a super hot lead. And as a marketing person, I may not have a full understanding of what the capabilities of these products are. So I really want to hand that off to my sales guy and let him get at this immediately. So what I would do here is I have CRM set up, Dynamics, and I would enter that lead in today. And the way we're going to kick this off, Dustin, is we're going to kick a flow off by assigning this to our salesperson. And then we'll see how the flows come through against those. So
and this, of course, could be the web app, the mobile app,
correct.
Outlook, wherever you want to put it in.
That's right. So this could be anywhere. This could be in a Power App. It's any levels. Thank you for bringing that up. This is, again, this is the base no-code solution. There's so many ways that you can augment this and make this look and feel any way you'd like, customized completely to your business needs. So right out of the box with no code, in less than a day, we were able to put something like this together. So this is not for developers. This is really for the super users to be able to do this. So empower your business to make change, right?
For sure.
So assigning this lead, so not to me, I want to assign it to a user, and I'll assign it to my other me. And once I hit this button, lots of things are going to happen. So I'm going to switch my screen over to my phone, and I will share that. So when I click this button, this assignment will trigger a flow that will then go through a few steps to validate what's going on here, collect some data off of the form, and send that directly to my cell phone, both in text and in Teams. You'll notice when I do that, when we look at each one, you'll see how Teams is really a fully fleshed out solution for this. And while Twilio and text are also good solutions, there are just some limitations we'll show you.
And I know that you'll show us what you're talking about, but some of the Twilio integration has to be, you have to set up a Twilio account before that will go in through Power Automate. And then
There's my text message from Twilio, and you can see here in Teams that the lead, I get sent a card that the lead has been assigned to me. It gives me the description. Also, it's nice because it has links, so I can tap this phone number to dial. Really don't want to do that right now, but
yeah.
I could do that. That's a fake number anyhow. Or I could tap the email address to send that information, to send that person an email. This has a 1-day timeout that's configurable. So if you want to have it time out for a day, I mean these options, the qualify, disqualify that you're seeing here, it's a configurable delay. You can leave it for a week, you can leave it for a day, you can leave it for an hour, depending on when that action needs to expire. So again, we're talking about immediate actions, immediate decisions that need to be made for these alerts. So here, where I could make a phone call, make a quick judgment call here and say, hey, I need to either qualify or disqualify this person and move on, right? So
marketing hands it off to sales.
Correct.
Sales can make a super fast reaction. I mean, they could be walking away from the trade show booth and get a phone call from sales.
That's exactly right. And so here in Teams, it's a nice card. You see you have these buttons here you can touch. It's also the same in the desktop app UI. It goes across both platforms there. And then I can go ahead and click here. Let's say I called Dwight, and he was really interested in my presidential medals. So I'm going to hit qualify. There's a comment section here. It's really optional. It doesn't send anything back to Flow. It's more of a explanation, like if we were sending these cards to a channel, someone else could come in and see, oh, this lead was qualified, and here's what Tom's notes were.
So like you could have a sales channel where maybe it's not even giving it to one person. It's
correct.
First person to respond.
First come, first serve.
Yeah.
And then I can submit that, and that's going to respond to the flow. And you can see here already, response is qualified. And I may get a text message here telling me that it was qualified as well. We can get into that in just a few seconds. So going back to my text messages. So here is the text message that I received on my hot lead of Dwight. You can see also that, we have ways to trigger flows. One of them is a webhook, and they give you these big, long URLs with specific things, and it's specific cookies and keys that'll identify it so it knows what to do. And also, if there's any query string parameters, if you're sending additional information, like where it's coming from. So sometimes, Twilio need to know, was this from Teams? Was this from text? Was this from Slack? Was this from Outlook? Anywhere, any one of those. So you can add all those parameters to be handled by your flow. And we'll get into that detail in just a second. But one of the limitations here is, one, we can't change the text of that URL in the Twilio universe without having a either an MVC app or a Node.js app, some kind of exposed web platform app service that can handle that intake and then call the flow on the backside. So what you see here is again, right out of the box, we did this one day. A very skilled business analyst, I think, could pull this off without much of a problem. Another limitation here is when I click on one of these to qualify or disqualify, it does bring me to a blank page. Again, if we had an app service, we could communicate back to, hey, this was successful, or maybe even take me directly to that record in Dynamics.
Right.
There's anything, any
style up some cool landing page or anything like that.
Or hit a Canvas app.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
And that would be, we could pass those parameters in there and just set the process straight into motion straight away. We've made a contact. Now we've made a decision, and now we need to move the process on as quickly as possible, which is the entire point of not getting buried in email.
Absolutely. Right? Well, and think about being able to take it from marketing at a booth to sales immediately, and then even sales says, I accept the lead, or I want to qualify the lead. That then takes them to a Canvas app where they can log the activity of the conversation they just had.
Yes.
Seamless end-to-end communication.
Yes. Yep.
And it's actionable, right? It's not just
that's right.
showing you something.
So I'm going to switch off my phone here for now, and then I will take you through kind of the guts of how this works.
This is for all the nerdy people in the room. But like Patrick was saying, it's not always all about code either. So you can do a lot of this stuff with just very simple Power Automate tasks and flows.
Yes, zero code here. So let me refresh this. There's my qualified lead. If I were to go into accounts, I should get Eisenhower. There's the Eisenhower account. So what this did was called the out-of-the-box action from the flow that just the qualified lead, and it is set to create a contact. And there's my primary contact and the account information for that. So looking at the guts, let's see here. That's my response. Let me look at this one. Okay, so this is what drives the notification process. And you can see it's 4 steps. We have parallel action down here, but really in real life, you're probably going to do one of these and move on.
Unless you really want to spam your salespeople.
Yeah, you want to hit all media on that hot lead. You know,
it could be. Think about a severity A case that gets logged.
That's true.
You may need
critical
20
situation.
different channels.
So in that case, you could take the parallel approach. I think the maximum is 3 parallels.
Okay.
But then you could cascade those
Absolutely.
into as many as you need. So let me show you how simple this is. This is just a CDS connector, current environment. We're looking at anytime a lead is updated, and we specify that it's just the owner ID. So we don't want to run this every time a lead is changed, only when it's assigned. So we specify that here. We could add more or less, more if we want. That works. And then from there we get the user, which is straight off the owner. So what changed? What's the values? And then we get information from the lead here. So that's just what's changed. And let's go down the Microsoft path, the happy path first.
Yep.
So it's one card, straightforward. We give them 2 options. We could add as many as we like. This is totally configurable as long as you can identify what needs to happen on the back side of that. So 2 options, qualify, disqualify. Headline, the lead is assigned to you here. We just took these straight off of the current environment connector. See, we have here, this is all the fields on the lead, since we have that context. Super simple. We could add anything from the lead there. The recipient is hard-coded in this case, but just because it's our R&D environment, you can pull the email off of the user record from Azure Active Directory or on this system user in CRM. And just a quick piece here on click here to view the lead, and we put a nice link back to CRM.
Right.
If you're sitting on your desktop, it should go right to your default browser where you're already signed in. We have a switch statement here, so we take the output, the selected option from the user, and we are...
So this is that qualify, disqualify card.
Correct. So on case 1, we're qualifying. Case 2, we're disqualifying. And we're calling it an action. Like I said earlier, our action that qualifies that lead. And then we've placed a message back. You saw the feedback I received on my phone that the lead was qualified, and my notes were attached there. And again, we always want to leave a breadcrumb back to where we're actually interacting with that in the system if needed. Same for the second one. Lead is disqualified. Move on.
Now I noticed that we're using Flowbot in this.
Yes.
That is essentially Microsoft Flow's way of kind of creating its own person that can communicate back and forth with Flow, or inside of Teams rather.
Yes. So this is a direct message. It's not going to a channel. It's not a
Right.
a post. It's a direct message to a specific individual who needs to perform that action. Okay. We can take a look at Twilio. Twilio does require a subscription. This was done on a trial, so you probably noticed on my text message there, it did say my trial account. So here we have a phone number that's provided by Twilio. And then the phone number 2 would be the mobile phone that we are supplying. And then again, these are all just user information and lead information. It comes straight out of the CDS connector. No additional code or expressions needed.
And that's really awesome about how dynamic that can be. Because even the Twilio phone number could be in a config table somewhere, and you could really get dynamic with a lot of that stuff.
Yes, yeah, you could perform a lot of business logic against that to do any number of things. And you know, I just manually assign this lead, and usually leads are assigned in geographic ways or you know,
territory based.
Territory based, yes, or size based. So. Just think this could be totally automated on Create, depending on how thorough your business logic is. And let's take a look at a push notification. You did see it briefly on the top of my screen. I may go back and record another piece of that so you can see the full text there. But send a push notification to Power Apps. It's in preview, but again, if you have multiple Power Apps, multiple Canvas apps that you deal with outside of the Dynamics application, or it aggregates information from multiple places, because that's entirely possible. You can then, if you have that Power Apps, if you're logged into your Power Apps iPhone or Android app, you can just the simple card here, it says leads assigned to you. There's not much as far as immediate action here. You can go open the app from which the alert came and perform your inputs there directly in the app, but there's no button like in Teams that's built in that said, okay, immediately push this. You know, this is
like you were saying before, though. You've got parameters.
Yes.
You could build out some logic there that says, put these parameters in, and then I know where in the app to take the user or what app to open.
Yes.
Some default data to fill in.
Query string parameters are a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And usually, unlike in the text messages, we can't really hide that without an app service. But if you did have that app service in front of it, you could have. I know there's a limit on the URL length, but just think you can almost put. It's boundless from what you could do there to route your person to where they need to be to make the quickest decision, the most accurate decision, and the best decision right then and there.
If I had $1 for every person that I've ever talked to that was asking if Dynamics had push notifications or some sort of notifications engine, I mean, every customer asks for this.
Right.
And every time I have to say, well, you could build a workflow to send an email.
No.
This is just light years ahead
Yes.
of where Microsoft's ever been. It's just amazing.
Yep. And we'll jump over to the response because in the Teams piece, it's all built in. You could do all of this in one flow.
Right.
It already has a mechanism for sending your alert and receiving your response, but with Twilio or pretty much anything outside of the Microsoft family, you have to build a separate flow to receive and process that response. What we did here is the HTTP webhook. It's that long email or long URL that you saw in the text message, and what it will do is it receives that information, it consumes those query string parameters inside that URL, and that is the lead ID, and here, in this case, the action, disqualify, qualify, and then this initialized variable is the source. So it's telling us, did it come from a text message, did it come from, maybe I just want to get my usage statistics and keep things that way. In this case, it was a debugger, but helped us understand better how this was working. And once we get all that information, it's straight down to the CDS connector, and everything's clean straight away. So we get the lead because we passed it back the lead ID that we passed to it in the query stream. We get the user also passed in. We switch on this action. So again, we have case 1, we're qualifying, case 2, disqualifying, based on the URL that I tapped and sent back to the flow.
And I know you're not showing it here today, Patrick, but like MMS, you could do that too. So let's say you're asking for a photo of a service issue or a product was damaged. the person could respond back even with a photo
Yep.
in Twilio, and that could then come into Flow somehow, I'm assuming.
Yes,
and
we'd have to
pull
process that
out.
basic-64 and
Yep.
all that jazz. But yes, we could then get that into either SharePoint or some kind of document attachment in,
I like it.
in CRM, or however you like it. I mean,
So think about this. A time entry gets logged into the system as travel. Triggers a notification that then sends a message to the user that says, have you uploaded your receipt yet? If not, send me a photo of your receipts for your travel. It immediately logs all those, and you've got this little quick expense logging system.
yes. So I just wanted to show quickly the Flowbot inside of here. So this again looks just like what we did on the phone. But if I'm sitting at my desktop, then I could easily open up these files directly from here, or I could hit the emails and make sure that I get this done as quickly as possible. So it does go across like we talked about. I thought I had one, maybe I didn't. Again, like you said, not everybody's 100% Microsoft. So when we go to Slack, again, we do have some limitations here on what text we can do. Microsoft all built in, it's fully fleshed out connector. With this case, you can talk to Slack all you want. You can post to Slack all you want. We just don't have the ability to mask these URLs. But you can, the emails do come as links. If the phone number is formatted correctly, it will come in as a link if you have a computer-based or VoIP system. And so yeah, you're welcome to use it, but again, you're in the same limitations that you have with text.
Right. Well, it works.
It
and
does
I mean,
work.
that's the main thing as far as if there's somebody still using Slack, they should switch to Teams if they want all of the great features, right? I mean, but the end result is that there's still some folks on Slack, and you can make it work.
Yep.
And I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, it's a bridge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You just sometimes it's not the appropriate project for the moment to switch everything to Teams. Thanks so much, everybody. I really hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you learned a few things. I hope you just could take some things back that you could start implementing right away with some of your customers. And I know that there's a lot of stuff that we could unpack, a lot of really cool ideas that we could do. You could really expand this even further with custom development and some really neat things that you could do across platform. But we wanted to show you kind of that power user, that business app developer view of what it is that you can do. So hopefully it helps you a little bit. Thank you so much for joining our session. We really hope you have an amazing conference. Thanks, everybody.